Welcome back, Sebastian here. So time for my review for the 2023 Formula 1 Brazilian Grand Prix. Quite a finish to the race, we'll get there eventually, but first we'll start at the formation lap, where surprisingly we actually had something happen. So supposed to be Verstappen on pole with Leclerc P2, but on the formation lap, Leclerc crashes. He comes over in the radio saying that the hydraulics have gone. So that's a DNS for Leclerc, not starting the race. Definitely not a good start for Ferrari. Then, so almost everyone is starting on the soft tires. No one, I think Sargent was the only driver on the mediums, or maybe it was someone else, I think. But basically Stroll inherits P2 now, but stays in his P3 grid box. So at the start, really slow start by both Aston Martin drivers, and they lose a bunch of positions. Then we get this big crash between Magnussen and Albon, and both of them go out and they end up in the barrier. Obviously, luckily both drivers were fine though. And what it looked like was basically Magnussen and Albon, and then Hulkenberg kind of in the middle, I think. They all kind of slightly converged together, so we had very slight contact between the three drivers. But it was enough that both Magnussen and Albon crashed out. Piastri also kind of got damaged from that. I think he got tapped slightly on the rear. They were planning to retire the car, but the race was red flagged. Ricciardo also had rear wing damage from Albon's flying wheel, which basically came down on top of his rear wing. Luckily it didn't come down on his head. That would have been very bad. But yes, so we get the red flag. So this allows Ricciardo and Piastri to repair their stricken cars. But as a result of having to do repairs in the garage and not in the pit lane, they had to start from the pit lane a lap down. So the races were effectively over at this point. And we had basically a 30 to 40 minute delay until the red flag finished and we got back to racing. So lap 4, when we got the restart again, Stroll has another bad start and he drops down, I believe, to P7, I think he was at this point, after effectively starting P2. Alonso, though, has a good start and gets ahead of Hamilton. Norris, who basically had jumped all the way up to P2 after the initial start, staying very close to Verstappen and having really good pace. Lap 9, not a whole lot happening. A lot of drivers are just stuck in DRS trains, managing the tires. We know that they knew that after the sprint race yesterday, tire wear was quite high, so they were basically just managing their tires through the stint. Lap 14, Perez finally makes a move on the first Mercedes of Russell at turn 1, showing that Russell, the Mercedes eventually were going to start falling back with the same tire wear issues that they had in the sprint race, and Perez finally showing the pace of that Red Bull. A couple laps later, lap 16, Tsunoda kind of gets on the grass, loses a position to Bottas, so a small mistake there by Tsunoda. But he would eventually recover from that. Lap 18, Perez then overtaking the other Mercedes of Hamilton at turn 1 for P4. Took quite a long time to overtake the two Mercedes given how slow they were and given how much pace that basically there was like already I think 10-second gap or so between Alonso and Perez at that point. So a sizable gap there just in the first 20 laps. Lap 19, Hamilton pits for medium and Russell pits the next lap. So showing again poor tire wear for the Mercedes, and they were the first drivers amongst the front runners to pit. Lap 21, Perez pits to cover the Mercedes, loses that position to Hamilton, but is able to repass Hamilton a couple laps later to regain that position. So that would have been P4. Lap 25, Stroll overtakes Russell for P9, and Russell comes on the radio saying Plan B. Don't know what Plan A was, but they decided to go on Plan B. At this point, we also had our first retirement mechanical DNF of the race, with Zhou retiring on lap 28, I believe it was, with some kind of mechanical DNF. Lap 28, Stroll clears Hamilton, so bad day continues to get worse for Mercedes, and Russell is starting to put pressure on Hamilton behind. And with Russell, you're always going to get the usual radio antics about trying to negotiate things over the radio with regards to track position with his teammate and stuff, as Sainz was gaining it quite quickly on the Mercedes. And at the same point, Gasly overtook both Bottas and Sargent in successive laps to get himself up into P9 into the points. Lap 35, Sainz overtakes Russell at turn 4 P7 at turn 1. Very easy overtake. Basically just drove by him as if he wasn't there. Lap 36, Tsunoda overtakes Bottas for P10 for the final points position, while Norris sets the fastest lap of the race. Lap 37, Sainz overtakes Hamilton, P8. Again, very easy overtake, just drove by him. Very, very good straight line speed in the Ferrari. Lap 40, Bottas retires. So the other Alfa Romeo of Bottas retires with a mechanical DNF. So we're kind of harkening back to early 2022 when Alfa Romeo basically broke every other race. But still, yeah, not great for the Alfa Romeos, and probably just, you know, wear and tear from different parts at the end of a very, very long season. Let's see, where are we? Oh yeah, lap 42, Gasly catching up to Russell. So we've had the Mercedes fall behind the Red Bull of Perez, the Aston Martin of Stroll, and the Ferrari of Sainz, and next it would be the Alpine of Gasly. So yeah, Gasly overtakes Russell the next lap on turn 1. Lap 45, Tsunoda gaining quite quickly on Russell as well. So Mercedes tire wear was very, very poor. Probably the worst I've seen in quite a long time. This is kind of like their 2012, 2013 era Mercedes type tire wear difference that we had here. Lap 48, Alonso pits to cover Perez, who had pit on lap 47 for his final stop. Gasly also sets fastest lap of the race. Very good time for Gasly after pitting the lap before. So the new soft tires at the end of the race, very, very quick. Lap 53, Stroll has a very slow stop and it almost costs him P5 to Sainz, but luckily he has about 2 seconds in hand when he comes out of the pit lane. Lap 58, Russell told to retire the car. Some kind of mechanical issue on the Mercedes, so not great for them, and they lose ground to Ferrari in the constructors there. Lap 65, Perez trying to overtake Alonso. Norris gets his fastest lap a couple laps earlier, but it was a very, very good time. It was around in the 1:12, so which is almost like a second and a half, 2 seconds faster than the next fastest time. Lap 70, Perez, second last lap of the race. Perez overtakes Alonso at turn 1 for P3, that final spot on the podium, which he's been so desperately trying to get ever since Monza. But on the final lap, Alonso gets an excellent run out of turn 3, and you can see this move coming all the way from turn 1. He didn't try to overtake into turn 1. He basically set himself up so that he would get the best possible exit out of turn 3 onto that long straight to turn 4, and he gets the move done. He overtakes Perez at turn 4, retake that podium position. I was not expecting that. Didn't think the Aston would have the straight line speed to be able to fight the Red Bull, but somehow Alonso managed to make it happen. So Verstappen takes the checkered flag, 17th win of the season, beats Ascari's basically 70-year-old F1 record of for winning percentage in a season with that win. So excellent result for Verstappen, basically I think highlighting the fact that this is probably statistically the most dominant season in F1 history. And so up to the line we go between Alonso and Perez. Perez with DRS gaining very, very rapidly, but not able to get it. So 0.053 at the line. Alonso holds onto the podium. Great result for him. So taking a look at the result of the race. So Verstappen, of course, won. Norris, excellent result in P2. Really good pace in the race. Jumping all those cars at the start. And I think really kind of repeating the pace I had from that sprint. Third, Alonso, excellent result for him. Didn't think he was going to be able to hold Perez off the podium, especially with the pace that the Red Bulls had, but still gets that podium in the end. Fifth, Stroll, really good result, arguably his best race of the season, very close to Alonso on pace. Sixth, Sainz, seventh, Gasly, of course, overtook Hamilton later. I forgot to mention that, but still a great result for him, getting up to that P7. Eighth, Hamilton, pretty toward the race pace. The car was not there. They clearly made some kind of setup mistake on Friday and just had too much tire wear. P9, Tsunoda, really good result from him. 10th, Ocon, final points position. 11th, Sargent, just missing out on the points, kind of driving in no man's land, clearly slower than the Alpine of Ocon, but much faster than Hulkenberg's Haas. Hulkenberg in 12th, and then 13th and 14th were Ricciardo and Piastri, who were effectively a lap down, basically just driving their own race for the entire time. But Ricciardo did have quite good pace in the fresher, as he was gaining on Hulkenberg pretty much the entire race. And I think he ended up being like, if you discount being lapped, I think he would have been like 25 seconds ahead of Hulkenberg in the end, which might have been good enough for points. Piastri rounds of the drivers, and then our DNFs quite long. Russell, Bottas, Zhou, Magnussen, Albon, and then Leclerc, of course, did not start the race. For some reason, I don't understand why. He's classified ahead of Magnussen and Albon. Now, Drivers' Championship, Verstappen, first driver to ever hit 500 points in a season, 524. Perez does gain on Hamilton. I think this kind of really seals P2 in the championship for Perez. Hamilton basically needs a win and a Perez DNF, and then beats Perez in the other race, or basically a double DNF for Perez in the last two races to have really any hope of beating him. So I think that's probably not going to happen. So I do think at this point Perez's P2 in the championship is safe. Let's see, Hamilton third, 226. Alonso moves back into fourth place, 198 points for him. Fifth, Norris jumps up to fifth, I believe, passes Sainz, 195 points. I don't think Alonso is going to be able to hold off Norris for P4, but I think he might be able to hold off Sainz, who's dropped down to sixth with 192. Then we have Leclerc, 170 in seventh. Again, another DNS, so that doesn't help him at all. 8th, Russell, 156. 9th, Piastri, 87. Stroll moves back up into 10th place in the championship, 63 points for him. One clear of Gasly in 11th. 12th, Ocon, 46 points. And then 13th, Albon, 27. 14th, Tsunoda, I believe 18. I wrote down 18 because I think that's why I wrote down. But it's possible that Tsunoda's point total is wrong because the camera was a bit blurry. But 15th, Bottas, 10 points. 16th, Hulkenberg, 9 points. 17th, Ricciardo, 6 points. 18th, Zhou, 6 points. 19th, Magnussen, 3 points. 20th, Lawson, 2 points. Sargent, 1 point in 20th. And then De Vries, of course, no points. So, three big talking points in the race. I think, let's see. I think the first one will be the drag finish. Yeah, that finish to the flag was quite something. Definitely reminiscent of Gasly and Hamilton in 2019. Very exciting finish. I think second, I'm going to go with Mercedes pace. I think the Mercedes pace was absolutely awful today. Definitely in terms of race pace, I think that today was the worst they've had all season. So not sure if it was just a track specific thing where they just got the setup wrong with only having one practice session, but still not a good sign for them. Then third, let's see, what should we do? I think we're going to go with Aston Martin. Really good haul points today. Third and fifth, probably their best results, their best haul of points since Australia, I believe, which was a third and a fourth. But still a really good result for them. Of course, it probably doesn't change anything in the constructors unless they basically repeat that in the next two races and McLaren gets like no points. So unfortunately for them, I think they're basically consigned to fifth place in the constructors, but still a promising sign that they're able to extract some pace late in the season after this really, for them, a very troubling slide in the second half of the year. So that's all for my review of the 2023 Brazilian Grand Prix. Not a great race. I think the majority of the race, there wasn't a whole lot of action, and it was basically pretty predictable. Like, we kind of knew the Mercedes were going to fall backwards. They fell backwards, and that's kind of one of the reasons I don't like sprint races, that sprint weekends that much, is that you unfortunately, you kind of learn too much about the race, the pace of the teams before the race happens. That being said, the drag finish to the line between Alonso and Perez was quite exciting, that final battle for the final podium position. So I'll be back tomorrow with my power rankings for the Brazilian Grand Prix, so please look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.